Most people enter a cave to see the stalactites or the ancient stone, but some enter to hear their own voice. This is the story of the cave effect, a phenomenon where the silence doesn't just listen, it remembers. There was once a traveler who entered a deep cavern just to hear his own name echo off the walls. He stood in the center of the darkness, took a deep breath, and called out. But the echo did not wait for him to finish. It answered first. A whisper, soft and certain, spoke his name before the sound had even left his lips. The traveler froze. Caves are not supposed to echo early. They are not supposed to echo wrong. He tried again, much quieter this time, but the cave answered even louder. That was when he understood that the cave was not repeating him. It was remembering him from a time he had forgotten. This is not the only time the darkness has played tricks on the mind. There was once a man who entered a cave to prove he was not afraid of the dark. He walked with steady steps, counting each one so he would not lose his way. 1, 2, 3, 4. The cave listened, because caves always listen. When he reached 20, he stopped to rest. He heard a footstep behind him. Just one. He turned around, but no one was there. He took a careful step forward, and another step echoed behind him. He walked faster, and the echo walked faster. He stopped, but the echo did not. It kept going. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps deeper into the dark. The man felt his heartbeat rise into his throat. He whispered, "Who is there?" The cave answered with silence. Then from the darkness ahead, he heard his own voice whisper back. 21. He had only taken 20 steps, but the cave had taken the next one for him. It was waiting for him to catch up. Sometimes, the cave does more than just follow you. It takes from you. There was once a girl who entered a cave because she loved the sound of her own name. It felt warm in her mouth and soft on her tongue. She stepped into the shadows and whispered it just once, waiting for the return. But the echo never came. The cave swallowed the sound whole. She tried again, louder this time, but there was still nothing. No return, no familiar shape of her name bouncing back. A strange emptiness bloomed in her chest. When she tried to say her name a third time, she realized she could not remember how it started. The first sound slipped away, then the second, until the whole name unraveled like thread. She clutched her throat in a panic. The cave hummed softly, as if it were comforting her. Caves do not steal names out of cruelty. They take them when you whisper them too gently, as if you are offering them as a gift. When she emerged into the sunlight, a traveler asked for her name. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out, and she would have to walk the world until she found a new one that the cave had not heard first. The cave also knows when you are not being honest. There was once a man who entered a cave with a lie on his tongue. It was a small, convenient untruth he had told so many times that he no longer felt the weight of it. He called out a greeting, expecting an echo, but the cave stayed silent. He tried again, but the silence only deepened. It was not an empty silence. It was sharp. It felt like it was pressing against his skin, listening too closely. The cave was waiting for him to say something true. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. The cave refused to echo him because it had already heard the truth beneath the lie. The man felt the silence closing in like teeth, threatening to bite. In a moment of pure panic, he shouted the truth he had been avoiding for years. The cave finally exhaled. A soft, gentle echo returned his words to him, and the silence loosened its grip. He stumbled out of the cave shaking, and he never lied again. He did not fear being caught by people. He feared the silence that knew better. Trusting technology in the dark can be just as dangerous. A traveler once entered a cave, carrying a lantern he trusted more than his own instincts. It had never failed him in storms or forests. But the moment he stepped into the cave, the flame flickered. He shook it, and the light steadied. But after another step, the lantern went out completely. He checked the wick and the oil, and everything was perfect. He struck the flint again and again, but the lantern refused to glow. The cave watched him quietly. He whispered, "Why won't you light?" The cave answered with a soft, distant echo, "Because you are not supposed to see that." The traveler froze. He did not know what that was, and he did not want to find out. He backed out slowly, and the moment he hit the daylight, the lantern flared to life, bright and obedient. He never returned, not because he feared the dark, but because he feared what the cave had protected him from seeing. Every path in the dark has a purpose, or so one wanderer believed. He entered a cave and found a chamber with two identical paths, left and right. He waited for a sign, a breeze, or a sound, but nothing came. He stepped toward the left, and a pebble rolled down the right. He stepped toward the right, and a drip echoed from the left. The cave was mirroring his indecision. He knelt down and asked, "Which way leads out?" The cave answered with two identical echoes, one from each tunnel. He realized then that the cave did not care which path he chose. It cared why he chose it. He closed his eyes and listened to his own heartbeat. When he finally stepped forward, he did it because he knew what he wanted. The cave hummed in approval. Both paths would have led out, but only one would have led him forward in life. The most powerful thing a cave can do is show you who you really are. A woman once entered a cave to hear how brave she sounded. She had practiced her steady, calm voice for years. She called out hello, and the echo was perfect. But when she reached the heart of the cave, she whispered a question she had never dared to ask aloud. "Am I enough?" The cave waited. When the echo returned, it was not her voice. It was older, wiser, and carried a weight she did not recognize. It answered, "You always were." She froze. She had not said those words, but the cave had. She asked, "Who are you?" The echo returned the question, but behind it came a second breath that said, "The part of you that listens." She left the cave quietly, carrying a voice she had forgotten belonged to her. For the first time in years, she did not feel alone. A boy once entered a cave because everyone told him not to. He believed in bravery and curiosity. He thought nothing in the dark could change him. But as he walked deeper, he felt a warmth brush against his cheek. He reached a narrow passage and squeezed through, and when he emerged, the cave felt different. It felt attentive, and the echo that returned was the voice of the man he would become someday. It told him, "You are not who you think you are yet." The boy felt a deep understanding shift inside him. When he stepped back into the sunlight, he felt taller and older. He told the people outside that he walked in as himself, but he walked out as who he was going to be. The cave echoed his words with quiet pride. Another traveler sought answers to his past and future. He called out his questions, but the cave stayed silent. Before he could ask a third time, the cave whispered, "Why did you really come here?" The traveler was stunned. He stammered that he wanted answers and guidance. The cave exhaled and said, "Closer." He closed his eyes and whispered, "I wanted to know if I am lost." The cave echoed the words back gently and asked, "And do you want to be found?" The traveler cried, because he had never asked himself that honestly. He whispered yes, and the cave placed the word back into his hands. He did not leave with all the answers, but he left with the one he needed. Finally, a man entered a cave believing he could outrun his fear. He dropped a stone into the darkness to test the depth, and waited for the sound of it hitting the ground. He waited for minutes, but the stone never landed. Instead, a soft, trembling echo of his own fearful breath rose from the darkness. It was a breath he had buried years ago. The cave was not repeating the stone, it was repeating the fear he had denied. He sank to his knees, and the cave returned the feeling of that fear to his chest. It had been holding it for him until he was ready to face it. He walked out, carrying the stone he thought he had dropped. It was warm, and it remembered him. The cave effect is not about the darkness. It is about what rises in you when the world finally stops talking. Some echoes return, some change, and some follow you home because they know you are not finished listening. If you felt a memory or a question stir while hearing this, that is the cave's final gift: recognition. Caves do not transform you. They simply reveal the part of you that was already waiting in the quiet. When the echoes fade, the listening does not. it follows you home. Tell me what you think in the comments.